Okay, we have spent 2 weeks getting here. In episode 1, we talked about the why. We sat with the ache of Hannah being misread. We talked about the wound that she was carrying. She was misread by the people who she thought really should have been the ones to see her. We know that Eli, the priest, he got it wrong. And her husband, he didn't quite understand. Although he tried, he just didn't quite understand. Penina, the other wife, she just made it worse. She used her barrenness as a weapon. And then in episode 2, we talked about the who and the where. We met the woman behind the miracle. And we also took a minute to go back and learn what barrenness meant in her world, what it meant to not be able to bear a child. We talked about Mar Nefesh, which means bitter soul spoiled by grief. But one thing that we also watched was we watched Hannah show up at the tabernacle, at the doorpost, year after year after year, still showing up and still coming. But today, we go to the verse that most of us read straight past, trying to get to the miracle. It is tucked between two famous moments. And those two moments are the first would be Hannah's silent prayer when she was accused of being drunk, and then the birth of Samuel. Now, at first glance, it looks like a transition sentence. Maybe something you would skim on your way to the miracle. But it isn't, though. It isn't. It is truly the hinge of this entire story. So in 1 Samuel, verse 18, it says, Hannah said, let your maidservant find grace and favor in your sight. So the woman went on her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. I want you to hear what that verse does not say, and that's 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 18. But let's talk for a second about what that verse does not say. The verse doesn't say that she went on her way and she was pregnant, just like that. It does not say that she went on her way and received an answer immediately, just like that. It does not say that she went on her way and when she got back home, Panana apologized and asked for forgiveness for all the torment that she had put on her. Doesn't say that. It doesn't say that anything changed in her circumstances at all. That's not what the scripture reads. It says that she ate and her face was no longer sad. That right there, that's the hinge. That's the hinge in that scripture. Right there in that one sentence. Before the baby, before the answer, before anything in her external life changed, any of the circumstances around her changed. It says that her face came back. Now, let me show you what happened just before this verse, because that matters too. It says that Hannah poured herself out at the doorpost. So remember, she's at the tabernacle. She poured herself out at the doorpost. It's not, she's not being composed. She's not composed. This is not a composed Sunday morning prayer. It's a prayer with no voice, just a soul being emptied out. Mar nefesh. Every bit of the grief, the years, the bitterness laid down right there at the doorpost of the tabernacle. And if you remember, Eli the priest misread it and accused her of being drunk. And she answered him quietly with extraordinary dignity. And she explained herself. And in that moment, Eli pivoted. And verse 17 tells us that. He says, "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant your petition that you have asked of him." Now, that is the priest's blessing. That's Eli bestowing a blessing upon her. That's not a confirmation that she's pregnant. That is not a word from God. That's not a sign. Just the priest saying, "I hear you now. May God answer." And she had no proof, no test. There was no physical sign. Nothing in her inside her body changed. She had only this, that she had been seen. Finally, she had finally been seen. So the priest who misread her had finally heard her, had finally seen her. And that was enough to bring her face back. There's a Hebrew word for this. And the Hebrew word in verse 18 is panem. Panem. It means face, but it means more than just face. Panem carries the sense of presence. It's the whole visible, readable you. You know, it's like when somebody tells you, "Girl, fix your face," because you can see everything on your face. It's your countenance. It's the way people read how you're doing when they look at you. When people look at you and say, are you all right? What's wrong?" Because they can read your face. Her Panem came back. It came back. Not because the answer came, not because the circumstances changed, not because she finally had what she had been praying for. No, her Panem came back because she had been received, she had been seen, because someone finally heard her, because she walked away from the doorpost having been seen. And that was enough. That was enough for Hannah right there at that point. You know, we have built an entire spiritual economy around waiting for the outcome to change us. We have told ourselves, maybe without words, but in our bodies, in our body language, and the way we hold ourselves, and the way we hold our face, and the way we look on our countenance. We have told ourselves in the way that we answer questions when people say, "How are you?" that we are not allowed to feel like ourselves until the situation resolves, until whatever circumstance we're going through resolves. We're waiting for the new job to come through first. We're waiting for the healed marriage to happen, the answered prayer, the diagnosis that needs to clear first, the prodigal that needs to come home before we allow our countenance to change, the door that finally opens, or the chapter that finally closes. It's like we've decided that our countenance, our panem, has to wait until those things happen before that can change. But Hannah's verse 18 says something different. Hannah's verse 18 tells us that your face can come back before your circumstances do. It says the encounter is enough. It says that being received, being seen is enough to change your countenance, even when it hasn't changed your circumstances. Do you believe that? Let me ask you something directly. You know, I'm always asking questions, so let me ask you something directly. Where have you been waiting for an external change before you let your Panem return? Before you let the facial expression, the look on your face, everything about you that people can see, the readable, visible you. What is the thing that you have said, even without saying it, that you need to receive before you let yourself come back to yourself? The relationship that has to heal, the thing that has to happen at work, the prayer that has to be answered, the person who has to change, the season that has to shift. What if your Panem doesn't have to wait for that? What if, like Hannah, you could walk out of that very room where you've been pouring yourself out and eat, and your face could come back before the evidence arrives? Just what if? That's not denial. Hannah wasn't in denial. Hannah wasn't pretending she had a baby that she didn't have. So she wasn't in denial at all. This is receiving the invisible shift. The shift that says, I have been seen, I have been heard. God, who is over all my circumstances, is aware of me, and that is enough to let my face return. I want you to remember that your countenance can return before your circumstance does. Say it out loud. Say it in your bathroom mirror in the morning when you're getting dressed if you need to. When the season is still the same as it was yesterday, just keep on telling yourself that. And remember, God sees you and he hears you. Your Panem doesn't have to wait. Next week is going to be the last episode in this series. We are going to take everything, the why, the who, and where, and the what, and we're going to bring it home. We're going to bring it all together to you, to your specific season, to the particular seat that you are sitting in right now. And we're going to answer the when. When does this change? When? When does your face come back? When? When do you get to walk away from the doorpost different? When? Even if nothing on the outside has shifted yet. You are going to want to be here for that one. Trust me. If this message landed for you today, share this episode with someone. Someone in your circle is waiting for the same permission slip that Hannah found in verse 18. Trust me. And I also want you to make sure that you take time to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. And also, if you're not receiving my weekly newsletter, the link is below. Be sure to subscribe because in the newsletters, I typically go a little deeper in these series that I talk about here on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe, be sure to send it to a friend. And until next time, just remember that God sees you and that you don't have to wait for your circumstances to change before the readable, visible you changes. Until then, I'll see you later.